the Ukrainian government has put out a promotional video about a pregnant woman in the role of supporting the infantry. So it's an infantry role called sniper.
I can already tell before we even get into this that you didn't even watch the video. But I'm going to let you keep cooking. I'm going to let you dig your own grave here. So let's keep going.
And let's just go through everything wrong with this promotional video, because there's a lot. It's administrative, it's tactical, it's moral. There's so many things wrong with this promotional video. So let's break this dumb shit down.
Yeah, let's break this dumb shit down. The video is nothing of what you just said. The video is, in fact, it is a promotional video, but it's not for females joining the military, which they do have. They do have commercials for females to join the Ukrainian armed forces, just like we have commercials for females to join the U.S. military. Because, females are allowed to serve in the military now, Johnny. It's not the olden days. They can do what they want. The video, in fact, and I will link the original video in the description of my YouTube video. It's a promotional video about making sure that females in the military service are provided for and cared for, just like they are in the U.S. military, providing them with specific hygiene products and providing them with specific uniforms that are appropriate for, like, pregnant females. Yeah, the source for that will be in the YouTube description. Again, if you guys are watching on YouTube as well, all these sources that I list, everything I show, will be in the description just to show how all of this bullshit is propaganda.
Administratively, I don't know who their propaganda minister is. Maybe they thought they found somebody like Joseph Goebbels, but they definitely did not, because this isn't making the war effort look any better. Putting a woman in a combat role makes you look really bad.
Ooh, Johnny, you've really outdone yourself this time. So not only can we add a Holocaust denier, Russian Z supporter, genocide supporter, and misinformation spreader, but we can now add sexist to the list of things that you are. I didn't know that adding women to your military in a combat role made you look weak. You might want to tell Israel and Russia and all the other countries in the U.S. that allow that they all look weak. Just a thought.
Okay, if anybody remembers World War II, especially around 1943, the NSDAP wasn't doing so hot. D-Day had already transpired. In 1943, the Soviets are already whooping their ass on the Eastern Front. And so they started recruiting or implementing conscription of very young men, about the age of 14, and women. They were training women, mobilizing women to defend Berlin.
The Yahtzee Party in Germany was not training women for frontline combat roles. In fact, most of the, I'll include an article right around here, most of the women in the Yahtzee military were auxiliary support roles, such as nurses, doctors, stuff like that, and also prisoner torturers. They would torture prisoners, and they were guards of concentration camps, and they would torture Jews in concentration camps. So your claim that the Germans were training females and conscripting them out of desperation specifically to be soldiers is patently false and incorrect. I would encourage you to pick up a fucking history book for once in your life.
So administratively, we're not doing so hot. But let's talk about tactically, militarily. Women are not designed, hormonally or genetically, to be in combat. That's the reason why you don't see them in combat.
The reason you don't see women in combat as often is not because they're not designed to be in combat. It's because we have standards set up in different militaries in different countries that are hard to meet even for a lot of males. I would like for you to probably look up the dropout rate for men going through infantry school in the Army or the Marine Corps. It's not insignificant. It's not all of them, and it's not most, but the dropout rate is still not insignificant, and it is hard for females to meet our specific infantry standards. Yet, here we are, and we have women in combat roles in the United States military. I would also like to point out that this source here shows multiple other first world countries and modern militaries with females in combat. Oh, also, there's the fact that Ukraine has had females in combat since 2014, on record at least, as well as Russia. And here's some proof that General Shoigu himself openly admitted that there is Russian female soldiers in combat in Ukraine. So, oh, and in addition to Shoigu admitting that Russia has 1,000 plus females serving in combat on the front lines in Ukraine, let's also not forget that Russia has been using females on the front line, including as, world famous snipers since World War II. Does that mean that the Soviet army or the Russians sucked in World War II? No.
I mean, yeah, the stories of Boudica from years past as she battled the Romans was a nice story, but this isn't 200 AD or 400 BC. This is 2023.
Yes, I'm glad you can read a calendar. This is 2023. We have developed as a society, and females are allowed to do what they want, including be in the military and be in combat if they can qualify. I feel like this is going to be a surprise to you, though.
Because of hormones, women have a time of the month, and it continues regularly. And talking about the time of the month also means that there's only certain times where a woman can get pregnant. So I hope to God that this woman did not go out into the bush, out into country, and get poked in her bush or in country, because that's also a very big tactical problem.
Okay, we've moved on to basic biology here. Yes, women had periods. That is a thing. Women also have certain times of the month around that period when they can get pregnant. Congratulations, you can probably pass a basic sex ed course now. Um, but what's the problem? It's a period. And who cares how someone got pregnant? I don't understand what it is with you Russian supporters and worrying about who and where someone is fucking when it's not your life. But I like the implication that you're making, that they were just getting down in the trench in horrible conditions. It's not like there's fighting in cities, or people don't take breaks from the front lines, or they don't get any R&R, or they don't get to see each other in anything other than a filthy, muddy trench. But okay.
But managing a woman's time of the month in combat, because it's so unsanitary, is almost damn near fucking impossible, especially as it pertains to, I don't know, what Ukraine's going through. Probably not a good idea to put women on the front line.
And it's not impossible. I mean, you could fucking ask Russia how they're dealing with it. Ask the U.S. military how we deal with it. There's a multitude of different ways to deal with it. In fact, if you would actually watch the video you're referring to right now, what you're saying is a big propaganda video about a pregnant woman serving on the front line, which it's not, you would see that she's even started a company to partner with the Ukrainian armed forces to provide females with hygiene products and female-specific stuff to help females throughout the entire military, not just females on the front line. So there is ways to mitigate issues and to help out females in a military capacity. You say you were in the military, and yet you don't know this stuff, which is shocking to me. So I actually had to go back and record this part because I couldn't believe that you actually fucking doubled down on this stuff. Here is pictures of United States service members, females, with female-specific uniforms. We have ones for the Marine Corps. We have some for the Army. We have them in both utilities and service and dress uniforms. Well, all three, sorry. This has been going on for a while. And the fact that because you haven't seen it, that it doesn't exist, again, tells me that you have no idea what the fuck you are actually talking about, and you never have. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't have any experience. You're just spreading utter bullshit and what you think is the truth, and you're hoping that people will believe it. And unfortunately, a lot of people are. You are not the expert you claim to be. You never have been, and you never will. Fuck.
Women's muscular, skeletal, hormonal structure is not capable to make sure they are able, without a lot of drugs, to be able to perform an infantry role.
Are you implying that you and your infinite wisdom and experience in the military can dictate how females and their bodies can handle being in the military and being in an infantry role? Because as far as I'm concerned, even you couldn't hack into the infantry. So I'm wondering how you are going to tell someone else that they can't make it in the infantry when you yourself couldn't fucking make it. The hypocrisy is fucking amazing. Yeah, I know this part's going to piss you off, but I got receipts. But again, there's been a multitude of studies. There's been hundreds of studies done on this over the years, and even the U.S. military has come to terms that we're not going to lower the standards. Meaning, we've got a specific standard set for combat roles, and we're not going to lower that. But if females can pass it, then they can pass it. It's not like it's a sexist, gender-based strength testing. It's, hey, these are what we expect of someone who's in a combat capacity. Doesn't matter who you are, how old you are, your gender, whatever you are. If you can pass it, you're good. It's why people who are older sometimes don't make it through pre-deployment training, because they literally can't make it through the PT test. These are all things you should know as a veteran. But here you are. Adding to those studies, if you actually knew what the fuck you were talking about, by the way, we've discovered that, just like men who have problems with certain bodily functions when in the field or in a combat environment, females' periods often get delayed, meaning they don't happen as frequently when they're in a stressful environment, like you would be on the front lines or in a trench or in the field or in a training environment. It just doesn't happen. But even if it does, there are pills that the military can give out to push it back. You can push back that period just a little bit longer and wait until you're out of the combat role, you're off the front line, or you're doing your rotation, or you're out of a field training environment. These are things that exist, and these are studies that have been done that it blows my fucking mind that you don't know these things.
So let me go through what I went through in the infantry when I was in the United States Marine Corps. I got out of boot camp. The most we ever carried was 60 pounds. We get into ITB. We go through that roll call and all that different shit, moving to different bases, wherever the H square is going to be when the Marine Corps is trying to figure out where they're going to put you. And I get placed with Charlie. The first 15 days, they seemed okay. They weren't very bad. Then they put us in a Mog Deuce, cover down, so we didn't know where we were going.
See, this is part of why I know you're talking out of your ass when you say you were in the Marine Corps for even a full contract. And I'm 90% sure you got either kicked out in infantry school or shortly after. A Mod Deuce is this thing. An M2 Browning 50 caliber machine gun. Mod Deuce meaning M and two for deuce. I mean, you could be referring to the M939 series of trucks, which is like the 5-ton trucks you use for troop transport. We also use 7-ton trucks. But the Ma Deuce is not a truck. And in your infinite wisdom, considering you seem to be a military expert and an expert in everything, you should know this. And a very simple mistake like that should have been something easily that you would have caught yourself saying or that you would have known was incorrect. But here you are again, talking out of your ass, trying to talk the talk, but you don't know what you're talking about. But anyways, we'll let you go on with your little fake-ass story. Continue.
Tricky shit the Marine Corps does. Drive us out to a night fire course. NVGs, helmet, all the shit, and we fire for a little while. Then they put our main packs on the Mog Deuce and drive the motherfucker away. Now we're like, what the hell? And then they literally hand us our infantry packs and are like, you're going to run 3 miles. Your plate carrier, 2 plates in it, full-on mags, which full mag, all 6, rifle, helmet, NVG, and infantry pack. An infantry pack weighs about 30 pounds, rounded off. A rifle weighs about 7 pounds, rounded off. The ammunition weighs, I think, between 7 and 12 pounds, rounded off, because you got a lot of brass in it. Each plate weighs about 7 pounds. We're starting to add, right? Well, we ran it. Wasn't easy. I ran pretty well. Finished top 3.
Of all the things that didn't happen, Yeah, this one didn't happen the most.
Pretty proud of myself. I still got shat on for finishing top 3 by my senior instructor, but I still did well. Next 5 days, first test, main pack, infantry pack, ammunition, and everything else. So now we're weighing 80 pounds plus. Okay, female bodies are going to break under that weight, especially once you fleet and you have to march more than 30 miles sometimes. So shit ain't easy. So tactically, militarily, why did any senior officer decide that this was going to be a good idea? Let's put a pregnant woman in a promotional video. Let's put a woman on the front line in a support combat role.
I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that the reason they decided this was a good idea was because they're a lot more educated than you. This is literally their career and their job. They're an officer, so they have a level of education that you could never hope to obtain. And again, you're flat out lying about what's going on in this video. So you're saying that they're doing something that they're not doing. They're not saying, look at this pregnant female in combat. They're saying, oh, look at what this female who happened to be in a combat role and then became pregnant is doing now to help other females in the Ukrainian military. Nothing of what you said has been true. And on top of that, what's wrong with marketing to female service members? We do it. Other countries do it. Russia does it. Do you have a problem when Russia does it? No. They didn't think so. There's nothing wrong with advertising to females that they could join the military, or if they could be in a combat role, advertising them, look, you can do it. No one's holding you back. I don't, unless you're going to say that well, you've already said it, that you don't think women should be in combat. So congratulations, we've determined that you're a sexist.
You know, if she's not carrying everything she needs, it means that she's going to have a logistics program specifically designed for her because she's a weak fucking link. What a bad idea.
I don't even know where this talking point is coming from because nothing in the video showed her not able to carry things. I don't understand at all what your point is.
Which leads me on to all the other problems with this video. Why do they have a female in combat? Because they mismanaged so many other things beforehand. I mean, it's ridiculous how many things they've done wrong. So let's go through them to kind of lead up why they have a woman on the fucking front line.
You didn't even watch the video. Here is a screenshot of them talking to her, saying what her role was. She was a sniper. She served in combat. She met her husband there. Here is a screenshot talking about how she discovered she was pregnant. And she hid that for the first 2 months of her pregnancy. They did not know she was even pregnant. Do you want to know why they didn't know she was pregnant? Because she hid it. Because of people like you and other people on the internet who would be judgmental, because she was afraid, as she says in the video, if you had watched this, you would have seen it, but she talks about how she promised that she would be fighting until the very end of the war and would not stop. And she felt guilty, and like people would harass her and make fun of her and accuse her of intentionally getting pregnant to get off the front lines because she's abandoning the fight. So people like you are the reason why this woman fought on the front lines for 2 months in combat with her pregnancy. But she was fighting for much longer than that. It's not like she just got pregnant and then got sent to the front lines. But also here, if you would just watch the video you're talking about, she even openly states, or they openly say in the video, she's not in a combat role anymore. As soon as they found out she was pregnant, they removed her from the front lines. So if your argument is, why is a pregnant woman fighting? Well, shouldn't you be happy that they took her off the front lines because she's pregnant? Could you do me a favor and at least watch the videos you're talking about before you make bullshit propaganda pieces on them? Like, fuck, man.
2014, they started the war, and they got their ass whooped over and over and over again, to the point where they never really conquered 2 independent republics. They just couldn't do it. Even though Wagner was with those republics, they still couldn't do it. which is bad.
What a shocker. The country that barely had a military got steamrolled at first by a country with an outstanding military and with a private military contracting company leading the charge. Ooh, fucking tough guy over there. And guess what? They were still able to hold them off. In fact, the entire world was pretty much shocked that Ukraine held off Russia the way they did, because let's face it, if they didn't hold them off where they did, they would have kept pushing. And you can deny it all you want, but we know it's a fucking fact. They would have kept pushing, and they would have tried to take Kyiv back then as well. But Ukrainian forces, with their minimal equipment and organization, was somehow able to stop the Russian forces. It wasn't like the Russians just went in and went, oh, we've hit the 50-mile marker, time to stop. They got stopped by the Ukrainians.
Then Russia invades on February 24th of 2022. And Ukraine completely flips the fucking switch and freaks out and decides, we gotta change our conscription policy from limited conscription, which is between the age of 18 and 30, maybe 35, to scrape the barrel, which allows for the conscription of 14-year-olds all the way to 60-year-olds as it pertains to males, and females between the age of 18 and 45.
Conscription's been part of the Ukrainian military for a while, but it's not like they just did it out of nowhere. They've had conscription for a while, as far back as 2014. But I would still love to see this document that all you Russian supporters keep talking about, saying that the rules have been changed where they can conscript 14-year-olds. I have not seen that document. In fact, I have the document, and it'll be linked down below, for the rules for conscription in the Ukrainian military and what is and isn't allowed and what the requirements are. But you're more than welcome to try and debunk that. I would love to see a source that says Ukraine is conscripting 14-year-olds. And again, what's wrong with conscripting females? Ukrainian females have been required to register for the draft for almost a decade, just like the males have, just like in the U.S. I don't understand why this is surprising to you, and why you act like this is just oh my God, it's a sign that they're losing. It's like you genuinely don't know any world history at all. You don't even know the history of your own fucking country.
Bad shit. But it gets worse. Well, they lose a bunch of territory. And so they decide what they need to do is call on the United States for a bunch of military aid. And they're getting a bunch of military aid. But what they didn't call for was medical aid.
The U.S. has actually been supporting Ukraine directly with equipment and training in a middle amount, I will admit, since the first 2014 invasion, because we were upholding our deal from the Budapest Memorandum. We have been training Ukrainian forces since then. We have offered force-on-force engagement training where we would act as the Russian forces using Russian tactics against them to see how they would fare. We've also let them use some of our equipment. We've given them equipment like the Javelins. The Javelins didn't just fucking show up in 3 days. There was a bunch of them already there before the Russians invaded. And what do you mean? Why would you imply that medical equipment or training or treatment stuff, why would you imply that that was not part of what was sent over as aid? Do you not realize that logistical supply help also includes stuff like that? Do you genuinely not know how military logistics and support works? Because I'm sure you remember, as an infantry expert such as yourself, you should know how this stuff works, right? Because you would have had to deal with this stuff. Right?
A lot of their men are dying on the front lines from typhus, typhoid fever, rubella, crotch rot, foot rot, and all of the other shit you get when you don't have good medical supplies and a good medical logistics program.
Yes, fever. Yeah, it's not that there's a lack of medical supplies. Yeah, that's tourniquets are a big thing. Both sides are lacking tourniquets right now. That kind of sucks. The reason you're having stuff like that happen is because of shitty living conditions. It has nothing to do with, oh my God, we can't treat them. It's, holy shit, you're in a fucking trench getting shelled 24/7. We can't go out and do much. We can't fucking clean this area as much. It's what happens. Both sides are having this. I like how you're pretending and insinuating that this is only a Ukrainian problem and only Ukrainian trenches and only on the Ukrainian side of the front line. This is not a unique problem to Ukraine. This is on both sides of this war. Both sides are extremely suffering from very common diseases, or now they're uncommon diseases occurring in the trenches and on the front lines. This isn't shocking or surprising. So again, I don't know why you're going out of your way to act like you're an expert and say that it is shocking and surprising and like it shouldn't be happening, when we all know or knew that it was going to happen.
Well, if they survive from that shit, also being shot and blown up by artillery, then they're shipped back to the fucking reserve somewhere in the rear, and they're sent to a hospital where Ukraine thinks, okay, I know what we need to do. Let's hire some prostitutes, some whores, bring them in, sleep with them in to increase their morale. That just spreads venereal diseases. Now you're stacking diseases.
Where on earth did you read or even hear through hearsay that the solution that the Ukrainian military has come up with is to just hire prostitutes for soldiers getting treatment? I would love to. How do you come up with this shit? Show me a single source that says that. I would love to even read a Russian source just to see where they got the info from. I would love to see this. Again, you are just genuinely making shit up, and people are believing you, and that is not okay.
And this only gets worse. It just continues to get worse because they didn't manage it the right way off the start. It starts from the top down. A snowball rolls fucking downhill. It gets bigger as it rolls. And the problem is that this snowball was massive before Russia ever invaded. So, was this a good idea for the Ukrainian military? No, it was a completely bad idea. This is not a good promotional video. Just makes your military look like it doesn't know what the fuck it's doing.
So advertising to females and telling them that they'll be taken care of in the military makes your military look like it doesn't know what it's doing. But losing 4,000 tanks in a supposed 3 day to 2 week operation doesn't? I'd love for you to go up and tell all the U.S. generals and all the people in charge of us so that they're a bunch of idiots too for allowing females in the military and making commercials for females. Would love to see how that goes for you. Or, better yet, why don't you go tell the Russian military and General Shoigu and Putin himself that they're also stupid and look weak for allowing females on the front line in combat in Ukraine.
You're actually shooting, who was it, Commander-in-Chief? Not a Commander-in-Chief. What the fuck's his role? Zaluzhny. Makes him look like a dumbass. Makes him look like he doesn't know what he's doing. So maybe they need to get it together over there, because they don't got it together. Their LGBTQ plus machination of puzzle military is not working. It's only going to make more men die. And we've already seen that. 70,000 plus men. Just one offensive.
And there it is, the classic Russian line. You think you know more than everyone in charge of everyone else's military, and then you go off with your misinformation, your blatantly spreading of lies, you're a Holocaust denier, you're sexist, and you also don't like the LGBTQ community, because I don't know why, but Russian supporters are always so concerned with who other people are fucking. If you really were in the United States Marine Corps, which I doubt, based on everything that I've heard from you, it's like you made it through boot camp and you got kicked out in infantry school. You didn't even know what the basic administrative setup was for a unit, because it sounds like you never even made it to a unit. But if you really were in the Marine Corps, I am so glad that you didn't make it. I am so glad that you were not good enough to stick around. Because people like you are what fucking destroys militaries. People like you are what destroys shop cohesion and people working together cooperatively and unit morale. I am so glad that you did not stick around. Now, if you guys made it to the end, again, all my sources will be down in the description because I would like for you guys to verify those sources for yourself. Trust but verify. Don't just take me as a primary source. I am just a person who happens to be good in a very few specific fields, but I'm also good at gathering open source intelligence and research, and doing my due diligence and fact checking things. So don't take me as a primary source. Trust but verify. Have a good day, guys.